We group kids by similar needs. Fluency, comprehension, certain aspects of algebra. Who here teaches in high schools? High school people, raise your hand now. High school? So just food for thought. We don't have kids take Algebra 101 because we look at our electronic grade books and we have found that there's like 3 units, sometimes 4, in Algebra 1 that cause kids to fail. They pass the other ones. We look at it by unit for difficulty level. So those kids get interventions on those 4 units. If they can pass the end of course assessment, they then get the credit. Because we have the data to show why they failed and intervene with that. Okay? So tier 2 is putting kids together in a group who have the same need, and the team has to identify what the evidence-based interventions are for that need. We don't do diagnosis with kids. Put them together. That's it. Are we going to use a Wilson's Foundation? What are we going to use with these kids based upon what their common need is? The research is very specific that about 70% of kids that are treated that way improve significantly and 30% don't. Those are the kids that go on to tier 3. So we have a narrower focus, more time, up to 50% more time. And one of the things, if Teresa's still here, and you write those questions, I'm going to ask you to send out to them an academic support plan. And I can give it to you today, right after this. We have an academic support plan that talks about how to do this in each tier. It'll give you what % group time, what % small group time. If you have 3 or 4 groups, how to calendar that, what to do with the 3 or 4 groups, what data to collect. It's focused only on literacy, but you might find it helpful. So we assess more frequently, typically once a month with tier 2. Doesn't mean a teacher can't do progress monitoring, but officially we gather data once a month. I already talked to you about intensifying instruction, time, focus, and type. So time, more time, focus is the curriculum. The type, it may be different from those. I gave you those 10 most highly effective strategies. That's where you get your type from. So for English language learners, who teaches English language learners in here? Anybody? Now I sound like the guy on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Anyone? Okay. So there are 3 strategies that have the highest impact on English language learners. Explicit instruction, guided, and corrective. Nothing else pales by comparison to that. Everything else pales by comparison. So in this case, we would be, whatever the case of the ELL students, it would be explicit, guided, and corrective. And we'd define the corrective. Corrective means if they don't get it right, how many do they have to practice before we move on? And typically it's 3 to 5 to 1. So if the student gets something wrong, we want them to be able to get it right at least 3 times in a row, or up to 5, before we move on. That's corrective. So we have criteria for that. And we have a formula. Every time we develop tier 2 interventions, we follow this formula. And it does that time, what, who, where thing. So frequency is the time. The focus, we already talked about, the what. The format, how are we going to do it? Small group, the size, what data are we going to use, and do we need any professional development to implement this intervention? The who. Do we have people that know how to do it? If we have a who knows how to do the what, we're good. But what if we have identified the what, we don't have a who knows how to do the what? Then we got to fix a who. We got to train them up. We got to give them the skills. But we just don't pick a clueless who to go in to do the what. Because that's not good. So we sit and we say, what's the frequency? How often can we do this? What are we going to do given the amount of time we have? What is going to be the format of the structure of the lesson? The how, the instructional strategies. So that's just a formula we use consistently to develop our tier 2 instruction. I've already talked about that. The goal so let's say that John sets up Tier 2 instruction in literacy and math. He's got groups of kids coming to get extra help. That could also be in the general ed classroom. Let's just say that Tracy is a general ed teacher. And she is going to start doing whole group instruction. She's going to have centers. And then she, for 3 weeks, is going to take 6 kids in her class and reteach them what the lesson was, because they need more exposure to instruction, while the other kids do their guided instruction. Okay? So, in order for that to be deemed effective, 70% of the kids getting Tier 2 instruction have to show positive response to intervention. Otherwise, too many kids go to Tier 3. And your triangle becomes an hour class, and Tier 2 becomes de facto pre-referral for specialists. So we have a criteria for what is effective for Tier 2. And if it's below 70%, we get together as a team and say, this is not working as well as it needs to. A schedule, this is a quick MTSS schedule. This is a 4th grade schedule. And like I said before, I had a feeling, Jen, that this was from Lee County, because we were doing some UDL work in Lee County, and we were asking for schedules. So just take a look at this. I made some points today that I want to show you. Count the transitions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's an hour and a half of instruction loss. Can you recoup all of that? No. But minutes are precious. How many minutes are there for reading? 90? 30? 60? The schedule accommodates up to 180 minutes a day. Teachers can use this for a number of things. It could be ESOL. It could be, depends on the needs of the kids. But we have a block of time to be able to intensify instruction in a variety of areas. Now, I'm not big on any of this stuff. I don't really want to give up even 10 or 15 minutes to logistics. Morning routine, if the kids are on the spectrum or something, that's fine. Morning news, no news is good news typically these days, so we don't need to share that with them. This reading enrichment is bogus. Are you kidding me? We're going to have a transition for a 10-minute activity. That's a teacher mental health break. I don't know what you can transition into for 10 minutes and out of and have it be meaningful. So I'd mix that. I'd probably mix a lot of this stuff. In Florida, we have no season, so we don't have to talk about that. The weather, it's either raining or it's not. That's it. These are not big concepts that kids have to understand. Notice that the schedule is different for different days of the week. We had to do that to accommodate the extra 60 minutes. Look down the subject area. What's missing? Social studies. Because it's been pulled into literacy, because we now have 180 minutes a day to do that. So we could be building fluency, doing comprehension around social studies stuff while we're building literacy. The other issue here is that the schedule was modified, and this is a scheduling issue. But we blocked the grade levels so that all kids in the grade level got different specials at the same time. And teachers had that time then to plan as a team. Now what that meant in this school, that everybody agreed on it, including the special teachers. And I hate that term, but everybody uses it. They're just as important teachers as anybody else, but we lump them into a category, right? Is there were 5 grades, rooms at each grade level, but only 4 specials. So the specials had to get a little bit bigger to cram 5 into 4. But the group decided to do that. I work with a high school that is having problems with algebra. So the principal and the administrative team asked everybody in the high school who is capable of teaching algebra. A music teacher said, I was a math major, I can teach algebra. So they told people, change schedules so that they could put more instructional personnel into targeted support for algebra. So a music teacher is teaching algebra. I'm working with a district, a high school right now that has algebra problems. Each teacher of algebra has 4 sections. 1 low section, 2 middle sections, and an advanced section. They work the schedule so that kids who needed extra algebra get 7 periods a week. And everyone else gets 5 because of the teaching schedule. In January, they evaluated the data. It was where that STAR data came from. They evaluated the data and found out that the low-performing kids who got 7 periods a week averaged 9% higher accuracy than the middle kids who had 5 periods per week. So if you don't think that academic engaged time matters, those kids are getting 2 out of 5, 2 more, 40% more math instruction, and outperforming kids who were not struggling just by modifying a schedule. That's tier 2. Those extra 2 periods are tier 2. And the outcome return on investment is huge. So schedules matter. Schedules will create opportunities for you to have a multi-tiered system. So that's what that is. Tier 3, we have only a couple of minutes left. Let me give you the big ideas about tier 3. Nobody's doing it. That's a big idea. It's characterized by errorless learning. Kids cannot make errors and be permitted to make errors in instruction. So it's intensive because of the scaffolding necessary to ensure that kids have right answers. So when I work with kids in anger control groups, my focus area of interest as well as most of my experience is working with kids who have severe behavior problems. They're aggressive kids. They are kids who beat kids up. They are kids who are likely to be shooters, bullies. I love working with those kids. We do very dynamic interactions and anger control. Literally, we'll have 2 kids, and if this kid went off on another kid because they called him the F word, we literally have one kid actually say the word. It's not any of this, I'm calling you the B word. That's not going to get anybody's anger. And we literally have to stand to prevent them. We scaffold them so that they can't make a mistake. So if we're doing that with reading, we have a kid maybe with CVCC words. The kid can do the sounds, but cannot blend them, and has no automaticity. So in tier 3, the kid would be doing the sound units. The teacher would then say the word, and the kid would then say the word. The kid would then do the sound words and say the word. But the teacher wouldn't let the kid try it and screw it up. Kids in tier 3, if they're really tier 3 kids, have a 95% chance that they cannot give a correct answer, academically or behaviorally. So the intensity comes from the scaffolding necessary. And then gradual release from that. So that's a description of tier 3. I'm going to skip. We have a formula for it, and it's a different formula than for tier 2. And you can look at it. I think that I've already talked about some of this stuff. More opportunities for guided, corrective feedback. That's the heavy scaffolding. So you can look at that. I'm going to end with 2 things. One is I want you to understand the difference between specially designed instruction and intensive. And it's straightforward in its definition. We'll just leave it at that. Specially designed instruction is the instruction that kids get if they're in special ed. To be in special ed, you have to have a disability and need specially designed instruction. If you have a disability and don't need specially designed instruction, you're eligible for 504 accommodations. But that's not specially designed instruction. Specially designed instruction is designed to reduce or eliminate a barrier to learning caused by a disability. So if a kid is dyslexic, one of the evidence-based strategies for improving dyslexic kid reading fluency is a multi-sensory approach to reading. One example is over the Gillingham. It's not the only one. Multisensory approach for a kid who has dyslexia is specially designed instruction because it's evidence-based to improve the performance of kids with that particular disability. That's specially designed. Intensive is instruction that is designed to reduce or eliminate a barrier to learning that's not due to a disability. So it could be exposure, it could be background, it could be attentional issues, it could be frequent flyers, moving around. It's everything except a disability. And the assumption is that focused, good quality instruction will help kids that need intensive instruction that's not caused by a disability. So all the special ed teachers or special ed people here, put your hand up. Again, please. Way up. Way up, way up. So you are what is special about special ed. Special ed remains very special. And MTSS hasn't diminished that. But what you have to do is communicate that. You have to start saying, this type of instruction is evidence-based for kids with this disability. I have been trained in this. That's why I'm special. But I can't help a kid who's improving unless the general ed offers opportunities for the kid to transfer and move that. So specially designed, and the other has to work hand in hand. So don't think that MTSS, RTI, or anything else is reducing the need for special ed. It's not. We're trying to get kids out of your classrooms that don't belong there because they don't have disabilities, they don't have dyslexia, they might have dyspedagogia. So it is very special, and special ed kids need it. Okay, last thing I want to show you. And you can go on our website and get this document, what is special about special ed. It's our state of Florida's document. All right, last thing I want to show you is this, and then you're done, even though we finished this. How many of you work in schools with students from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds? Hands way up, please, so we can see that. Okay. So here's something about MTSS that is really cool, but it is also a caveat. The idea that kids from different backgrounds, whether it's racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, etc., respond equally to evidence-based interventions is totally and completely false. If you assume that kids, regardless of their background, should respond to an intervention as well as any other kid, that's a problem. So we continue to get disproportionality even when we implemented MTSS. And we're going, what? We're supposed to get all the test stuff out of there. We're supposed to get all this out of there. So we said, we have a team, state level team. And we said, why could this be happening? And somebody said, well, maybe these kids are not responding to interventions equally well. And we're going, well, okay, that's a good hypothesis. Now, how are we going to arrange data collection to measure that? So we came up with this idea. And it's very simple. Follow me. Would you agree that kids who are referred for extra help are struggling with attaining some goal? Yes? Yeah. And would you agree with me that if that extra help works, they're probably not going to be referred for special ed? There's some slippage there, by the way. So would you also agree with me that if the interventions are not working, that kid's probably going to be referred for special ed? Yes. So that was our model. So look at this. This is a middle school with 890 kids. It's in Florida, but I'm obviously not telling you where. We had 430 white kids, 250 black kids, and 210 Hispanic kids. And I want to tell you about the black kids because it was a mixture of African American and black. That's a big differentiation in Florida because we have lots of kids coming from the islands, Caribbean, elsewhere. They're not African American, and they're not, and they shouldn't have that label. They also have other cultural differences, so we have black and African American, but this category was the same for them. And Hispanic. 60 of the 430 white kids were referred for intervention. You with me? 48 of the black kids, 10 of the Hispanic. Still with me? Now look at the column on the far right. 60 out of 430 is 14% of the population of white kids. Good? 48 out of 250 is 20% of the black kids. Much higher percent of black kids being referred for interventions. What does that say about core effectiveness for black and white kids? No fancy answer here. Is core as effective for black kids as it is for white kids? No. So right from the beginning, we got a problem. Core is not doing its job with those kids. And you can look at this kind of thing. Nobody goes everywhere. 15 of the 60 white kids referred for intervention were referred for special ed. That's 25%. 75% were not. For 75%, the interventions worked. 32 of the 48 black kids were referred for special ed. That's an intervention, that's 67% of that, by the way. So what are we going to say to the parents of black kids? We're not going to do tier 2 interventions. We don't know what the hell we're doing. They don't work anyway with kids like yours. So let's just go ahead and refer your kid for special ed. Are you kidding me? 33% effectiveness for black kids. No wonder there's disproportionality. So then we pulled a whole group together, including community people, etc., to say, help us with this. We go back to problem solving. We want to have the same percentage of kids responding to interventions. Current level of performance, desired level of performance. Why can't we do that? Why do interventions not work as effectively in this school with black kids as white kids? And this is important to us, because in Florida, SLD, EPD, and language impairment are pure RTI eligibility criteria. We don't do assessments. We don't do IQ achievement. That's our rules. Still some districts still do some of that, but it is RTI. So if we have a fault in RTI, we're going to have disproportionality in special ed with RTI, just like we have with tests. So this is to the principals and leadership team. You too can do this. Start out, get an Excel file. In the left-hand column, put the numbers of kids in each of these demographic categories. Every time one of those kids is referred for intervention, add it to that column. Every time one of those kids is referred for special ed, add it to that column. And you will get an immediate indication of intervention effectiveness as a function of race and ethnicity. If you don't have racial diversity, whether you have socioeconomic diversity, you have frequent flyers, the left-hand column doesn't matter. This is your overall assessment of intervention effectiveness. And unless you do this, you have no idea, as the year goes on, who this is working with and who it is. So, I'm sorry I kept you 8 minutes after. You guys were awesome. I hope that today that this gave you something to think about, affirming some things, and it's helping you do that.